Hey guys, let me tell you about Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast if you're thinking of starting one, and it's free. Yes, free. They also have a creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. It's free and you can make money. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey guys, welcome back to Talk Shit with Theme. So today I have a guest with me and we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic. But before we get into that, I'd like my guest for her to introduce herself. Then we can get into all the fun stuff. And she does have some interesting stories to share with us. So, hey.
Hi, Paula. So I'm Sandra Maerere, and I currently live in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. I'm an interior design by profession, and I have lived. Before I lived in Tanzania, well, I was born and raised here, but I had the opportunity to live in America, South Africa, and Uganda throughout schooling. And now I'm back here, which has been, great. And I also know Paula because she's my cousin, my lovely cousin.
Yes, so me and Sandra have known each other almost all our lives.
Yeah.
And today we're going to talk about what it is to be an Oreo. So I don't know about y'all out there. I didn't know what an Oreo was until Sandra brought this topic to me. So before we get into it, Sandra, tell us what is an Oreo and why did you want to bring this topic?
So basically, an Oreo is usually a black person that people say act or speaks in a white way. So maybe your accent is different and not what is stereotypically black, especially if you're from Africa, and maybe you don't act what you can see stereotypically as African American also. So you're probably what they would say more either educated or more white. So that's why you would be called an Oreo, because apparently being a black person and apparently speaking English very well is a very white thing to do. And I decided to talk about it because it's something that affects a lot of black people who I would say are more educated in some sort of way and do speak with what we decide is not an accent or an African accent or something. And that's why, because it's affected me and it's affected a lot of other black people out there. And so that's why I wanted to bring it to light to my dear Paula, especially because she had no idea that this existed.
Listen, for those who know me, okay, I've lived in different places, but I've never experienced being called an Oreo I studied in Uganda, never. And when I lived in UK, well, not really. I never got that. But when I was in Malaysia, there was racism in Malaysia. You'd hear things like, oh, you speak so well, for an African you speak so well, or things like that. But I never knew that the term behind it was an Oreo. I didn't know that term existed for. I would just be like, oh, how am I supposed to sound or something like that. Actually, most of the times they'll say like you're English, like they expect
exactly.
Too.
Exactly. It was the same, and that's like I never knew it as Oreo in the beginning. It was more the same things you're saying. When I went, especially to America the first time, I got a lot of people shocked that I was from Africa because they just assumed I was the new girl, like just another, new girl from America. But my accent wasn't even American at that point. It was just I spoke really well in English, and so they were like, "Wow, you speak very well for like someone who's from Africa." And I'm like, how else are we supposed to speak? I didn't understand it until later someone mentioned it. And it was actually a black person that mentioned to me like, oh yeah, it's because you're an Oreo. And I was like, a what now? That's how it started. Because it didn't happen in Uganda either, because I feel like it was a melting pot, different accents. But it was when I went to America the first time, when I think I was like in like sixth, seventh grade, is when everyone was like shocked that I was like speaking very well in English, and they didn't believe that I was from Africa.
Okay, before we get more into this, I want to say for people out there who have never been to Africa or don't know Africa, yes, we do speak very good English. We do have international schools. People can speak English and be from Africa without being Oreos, okay?
Thank you.
So, has being an Oreo affected you in any way? And if it has, how has it affected you personally?
So I have anxiety. That's basically I've been diagnosed with anxiety, severe anxiety disorder. And one of the ways it affected me the most is I almost felt out of place and almost like I was different. I mean, just being an African abroad was already something that was very different. But on top of that, I was this African or Black person that apparently spoke in a way that I guess they weren't expecting. And so that gave me a lot of anxiety when I was around other people that I didn't know about how I presented myself. It made me feel that I had to act a certain way because I was like, okay, they have these expectations that I'm like not the typical African. So every time I had to meet new people, I was like always nervous about it. And I guess that was like the anxiety before. Like I got so nervous. I was like, oh my God, they already have like such high expectations because I'm this Oreo person. So like I have to act a certain way. I have to be a certain way. And in a way, it made me almost erase a part of me that was African. So I could just fit into this mold of being an Oreo, about this girl who can speak great English. But oh yeah, also I'm from Africa. So I tried to almost like be like, I just want to be known as just me, you know? And so it gave me a lot of anxieties to like meet new people. And especially actually in America, especially meeting a lot of African Americans. And a lot of them just didn't think I was quote unquote Black enough. It was always, she's from Africa and she's an Oreo. Like she's not Black. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. Because, you know, when you grow up in Africa and you've gone to different African countries, you're not seen as Black. You're just like, oh, that girl from Tanzania, which is like much more identity I understand than being told you're not, you know, Black. And I'm like, what does Black even mean? Like, your skin color is the same as my skin color. I may be from Africa, but like not calling me Black enough doesn't make any sense. And so that like made me so nervous to meet people, especially of African American descent, because I felt like I didn't fit in with them because I wasn't Black, quote unquote Black enough, because I spoke a certain way or acted a certain way that wasn't Black enough. And so that's why when you look at a lot of my friends growing up who are not from like Africa, all of them were white, because for me it became more comfortable. Because they didn't say you're not Black enough. It was just like, oh, she's a girl from Africa that speaks very well. Whereas like, with a lot of African Americans, it was more like, oh my God, she's like not Black enough. Like she's not African American. She's an Oreo. And I was like, okay, well, now I'm gonna want to deal with that situation, because at least with the white people, you know, I'm just that African kid who like knows a lot of English, you know.
You actually mentioned something I was gonna ask, because I was gonna ask, is that the reason you had more white friends? Because I remember when I visited you in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So, isn't it funny how it was the Black people? It doesn't matter if they're Black Americans, they're Black. We are all Black.
Yeah.
It's the Black people who kind of discriminated you. And now when Black Panther came out and everybody was proud of themselves and trying to find their descendants in Africa and talking about their from
yeah, exactly. No, that's the thing. Like I remember like after leaving America and coming back and seeing a lot of which I did see, especially in college, I saw a lot of Africans that were there, were very close knit. And some of them had accents, some of them didn't because they grew up in America. But I was so scared of joining those groups because, again, I didn't want to feel inferior. I didn't want to feel like I wasn't either African enough or wasn't Black enough. I just didn't want the association. And so I was very comfortable with being around white people who were just like, okay, she's from Africa and she speaks great English. But they didn't ask anything beyond that. But also, on top of that, it made a lot of white people comfortable with doing things they weren't comfortable doing in front of other Black people, which was also another thing where I was like, oh no, this is not okay. Because you can't say certain things around me just because the excuse is like, oh, she's from Africa. Oh, she wouldn't care because, she's not that black. You know what I mean? So that kind of confused my life completely.
So you were not black enough for the black people and the white
I was an Oreo
people.
for the white people.
Oh, wow.
I was just in the middle somewhere, lost.
I can understand how anxiety came into play with that. That's very tough. So, do you feel like you missed out on having the, what do you say, black empowerment, the black friends, the black family, like, in college?
Yeah. Oh, no, for sure. Because every time I look back at it right now, I know I did it by choice. It wasn't like the black people, the Africans, or like African descent people who were there, like pushed me away. No, my anxiety could not let me get close to them. So there are sometimes I'm like, wow, I did miss the black or African experience in America. Like sometimes I look at it and I'm like, God, my anxiety about this whole situation and this crazy identity crisis made me feel like I couldn't join those groups fully, and so I feel like I missed that genuine experience that a lot of actual other Africans experience when they're in America. I completely missed that because I was so scared to join those groups. So I can't say that they actually were like, no, you're not African and you're not black enough or whatever it is. No, I just was so nervous to join those circles because I didn't want to be like seen as less than,
Well, I had the opposite problem. My problem was everywhere I went, even in Tanzania when I was in Muntazil, I was the black kid in a classroom with Indians or something. So I was always the only black kid, and I hated that. I've had friends in Malaysia who'd be like, oh, Paula, come take a picture with us. How else are people gonna have a black friend? Like I felt like I was I had
the token.
Somebody's black friend. Like, why can't I just be Paula or just the girl who talks too much or the girl who doesn't give a fuck or something? Why do I have to be the black friend that you wanna promote?
No, that's literally how my life was. I was the quintessential black friend. I was everyone's excuse for, well, I have a black friend. And then they would say this, like, especially in America, they'd be like, I mean, she's from Africa, but she's still black. And it's like, okay, great. Glad I can make you feel better about your diversity.
Wow. It amazes me how we went from there to now that Africa is taking over the world with all this music and stuff. And now everybody wants to be a part of African
Everyone, people are running here in herds.
I know. So, let me ask you this. I know you had those problems where, as you said, you were not black enough for black and Oreo. So, moving to Tanzania, because I know for a fact, when our darling sister moved back home, thank God she really doesn't care what, she's blessed with not caring and stuff. But when she moved back home, most of us were worried for her if she'll be able to settle back home. And she surprised all of us. She did amazing. She's doing amazing.
Yeah, she is,
But every time I went home for holidays, my friends or people who, like, my friends' they'll be like, oh, she's your sister? She's so white. Why does she act like she doesn't know Swahili? Why does she speak Swahili with an accent? Why, that like, duh, but you do know that most of her life she didn't live here, right? So it's not like they made it seem like she was pretending not to know Swahili or not to understand or to have an accent. I don't know, because you moved way later on, like, it's funny because it's like we exchanged lives. I came here, you went back home. So my question was, when you moved back home, was that tough for you back home?
No, so when I moved back, because I had been gone for, I think, the longest time, I didn't come back. I think it was already 6 years I hadn't been back in Dar. And so I came back feeling like an outsider. Can you imagine coming back home and feeling like you don't fit in? And mostly
Actually,
because like I just didn't know how people, like a lot of the friends I had moved on, like made other friends and were doing their own thing, and then all the friend groups were like separated in different friend groups. I didn't know how to navigate it. And when I did finally do it, it was the same thing as you're saying, because like when you stay in like a country like America, you don't speak Swahili so much. The only times you do it is if you run into another Tanzanian, or when you're speaking to your sister, but then most of the times you're speaking to her in English, or speaking to your parents, but most of the time you're speaking to them in English. And so you don't speak Swahili that much. It's not like you've forgotten it, but now your accent sounds a bit different. And so I had the same thing where it was like, oh, amekuwa, and she's become so bougie. Like she's acting like she doesn't remember Swahili. And I'm like, bougie? Honey, if you only knew how much I am trying right now to just speak Swahili with all my might. And it's not like I'd forgotten it. It's just like conversations weren't as fluid because I hadn't been speaking it for like 6 years, you know? And so I felt very much like, oh, she's the girl who came back from America. Oh, and like even like some people that I was like friends with were like, even your accent is different. Can you even speak Swahili? And it became like a running joke. That like even when they were speaking in Swahili, they'll be like, oh, maybe Sandra won't understand. Let's try and say this in English. Does anyone know great English? Because her English is very American. And I'll be like, oh my God, guys, I just want to be normal. I want one country to think I'm a normal person.
I actually understand that because for me, I when I was in Malaysia, I came home like once a year.
Yeah.
And every time I come home, my friends have moved on. Mm-hmm. The groups are not the same.
Yeah.
People are, and then you're just like, you feel, I feel like an outsider. Even now, when I don't know now if I come back home right now, like where do I fit in?
You're gonna have so many groups. And I'm gonna tell you right now.
No, here's the thing. Even those groups, I don't fit in because in some of those groups, the people I really don't know or don't fuck with.
Yeah.
And I'm too old to start fucking with new people right now. Like,
yep.
Unless it's a business thing or whatever, but to build a friendship and all that, it's too much work unless it comes natural or whatever. But it's like there are so many, and they're so stable, and they all have these lives, you know.
Yeah.
Most of them married now with families, and you're just like it's like you're a new kid in school all over again.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, those are the exact same words. You're the new kid in school all over again. And like with how much,
and I remember
it was like the worst thing. I was like, God, I was expecting to come back home and not have that new kid feeling, you know?
Yeah. And I remember the last time when I came home, somebody told like some of the stories they'll be talking because I wasn't around. I didn't know what happened. So it feels like every story they're kind of talking about, they have to loop me in, and then and they became exhausted because it's like they're repeating shit over and over.
Yep.
And I was becoming, and they kept on saying, oh, it's like sometimes I would be invited to places and I'd be like, it's so exhausting to go.
Yeah.
Or they would just not invite me because it's exhausting to have me. And somebody even once told me like they should just take away my passport because I'm a tourist now in my own country. Because I just can't stay a month and leave and hardly can. So, and that was like 4 years ago when I last went home.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it will be this time. But I'm thankful that I have cousins at home. I'm going to be stuck on you, Alan, Tanya, like I'm going to be in your houses for 24/7.
No, you're welcome. Because that was literally my first way of getting into things, like going out, was literally being like, cousins, what are we doing? And then like, that's literally how I went back out. Because I was like, okay, I don't even know what group to call. I don't know what friend to call. Like, we've not talked maybe in a year or like in a couple months. Like, I don't know what's going on and you're not friends with this person. So what do I do? I was like, who's consistent? Oh yeah, my cousins. And that's literally the people I went out with. And that's how I met like other people I knew and like friend groups that I knew before, like that kind of thing. So yeah, no, it's not easy coming back after not being here for such a while.
Well, they can never call me an Oreo back home because, bruh.
No,
Just
they'll
don't
just
be
call you
all
Mzungu. That's it. So which is even worse. I
kwa
feel
uzungu
like.
gani niliokuwa nao
Atunyosha kwa soko kwa mimi mtu akiniita mzungu ndio nakasirika kabisa. Yeah, go back to the Oreo situation. Because at least I'm still black in that one. Hii mzungu have completely changed race. It's not fun.
So let me ask you, with all this, how did you end up overcoming it, the not fitting in aspect, and finding being comfortable in walking in your own lane and pulling people people who accept you into your lane, instead of being worried about being an Oreo here or not being too black here or all that?
So in terms of, especially when I was still in college in America, it was just about me. I stopped worrying about it. At some point, I was like, okay, you know what? The friends I have are the friends I have. Even if like 98% of them are white, I don't care. These people could literally die for me because this is my tribe. I have found my tribe. I don't care what color, race they are. People can say all they can say. I don't care. I care more about the people, like how they treat you and how you treat each other and how much care and love is between you guys. And that's why just at some point I was like, I am spending so much time caring and trying to people please other people instead of taking care of my own self and having fun and having my own happiness. And that's how I dealt with it in America. Like I would post pictures, I remember, on Facebook, and all I would worry about are my friends like back in Africa, the ones here, the ones I made in Uganda and South Africa or whatever. I'll be like, I wonder what they're gonna think. They're gonna think definitely the only girl, like the token girl in like this white group of friends. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm just gonna post because I'm having a good time. White, Hispanic, black, whatever it is, whoever is in my friend group is in my friend group. When I came to die, it was the same way, where I was like, if you're gonna keep like doing the same old joke of like, oh, I am white, or I'm an Oreo, or like da 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 da, all that stuff, keep doing that. Like, if that's how you care about me or how you view me, you clearly are not a friend or someone who I should be really around. And so I kept close-knit friends who like didn't bring that up every single time they could, If anything happens, like, oh, it's because Sandra is blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, so I don't need you around me anymore. I need people who are just going to have fun, have like the same love and care and, like friendship, that it doesn't matter how I speak or how I act or how I do things for them to like be my friend. Like, I'm not going to be the token this. It's just like, oh, Sandra is here. Like, we were waiting for you. Sandra needs to be here, or Sandra is, you know what I mean? Like, just me as a whole person, instead of waiting to like, make fun of something. So I really decided to just overcome it by just being like, let me keep the people who treat me as a whole human being close than the others who are around. Like, they can stay as acquaintances. When they see me, they can make their jokes, but you're not going to be in my close circle of friends. That's it.
Amen to protecting your energy. And I want to say, shout out to your girls.
Yeah.
That I met in Florida. They might be white, but they were so nice. And
you mean in Philly?
Sure did have a good time. They treated me very nice. So shout out to them.
You mean the ones in Philly? It's not Florida.
Yes, when I came to visit you, yes, those ones. No, your white cycle.
They are such good people, such good-hearted people, so nice, so caring, so giving. And like, my mom loved them, my dad loved them, my sister loved them. Even when Irene came to Philly, like, they take care of you, like you're part of the group.
Even I love them.
Yeah, and like you, I'm saying, like, everyone loved them because they're just good people, It doesn't matter what race they are, like, they didn't care. Like, it was like, you're a friend of Sandra, you're a friend of ours, come in. Like, we don't care.
Okay. So now that you have also mentioned that you diagnosed with anxiety.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with that now?
So when it first happened, I was at a very, very low point in my life, and a lot of family things are going on, and that was a very, very low point in my life. And so actually my mom suggested like me going to see a psychiatrist, and that's when I got diagnosed, and he recommended therapy. And I remember I actually was like, yes, finally, I think I really need this. And my mom was like, yes, okay, whatever we can do just to make our girl like feel normal again. Because at that point I was very depressed. I had such huge anxiety. Like, I had so much anxiety. I couldn't go to do my own job, when you're so anxious about something and you don't know what's going on, and like you can't breathe and you have anxiety attacks, and like it was just bad. And so I was like, I need the help. And so I went to therapy, and like I did at first. I was like, oh, we're gonna do therapy for like 3 months. Let's see how you deal with it. If you're finding you can continue or you can not continue. So I went to therapy, and let me tell you, I have never been understood more in my entire life. And like that's crazy to say, because in Tanzania, mental illness is still like taboo. It's not seen as a very like an illness. It's not seen. And like people still call people who are mental illness crazy. And it's like, no, people like that need help. And so the fact that my parents saw and understood the situation and were willing to understand and like help me get help really helped me and gave me the chance to open up even when I went to therapy. Because you can go to therapy and like act and pretend throughout it and act like you're okay and act fine, and then like you've not solved your problems. So when I went to therapy, because my whole family was behind me, I like unleashed, and it was amazing. And therapy helped me so much understand myself, understand my life and all my other issues that I've had in life, understand why I was doing it. And it really changed. I like recommend it to everyone. I now recommend to a few friends who have really found help through that. And I was very happy that they asked me about it, because they're like, you've done it. It's not common. So please, like, what can I do? I'm like, yeah, no, I have this therapist that really helped me. You can try him out. If it doesn't work out for you, if he's not the therapist for you, you can still find, like, I gave them another contact. Like, you can ask this psychiatrist. He can recommend, like, other therapists for you. Like, but, like, if you're getting help, that's good. And, like, it helped me so much. Even when I was having, like, a weird identity crisis with just life and work and relationships, going to therapy really, really helped me understand and dissect those things to help me live a less judgmental life of myself,
Good. I'm an advocate for therapy. I would want to go to therapy myself. I always say it's easier to speak to a stranger because they really don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it easy for you to talk to them.
Oh, for
and
sure.
I would like you to share the contact of your therapist so I can put it up for people, because as you know, I'm a mental health advocate as well.
Yeah,
so
I'd like favorite.
The fact that therapy was able to help you, that's why they're good reviews, so I can tell people that it's reliable and it's actually good.
Yeah, and
so I like that.
Especially because like it's something to get a step in, because I know like someone I recommended my therapist to really liked him, and they really went through a lot of things together. But like, she decided that wasn't exactly the therapist she wanted to go on with. But from knowing him, she was able to find someone else. You know what I mean? So at least you have a starting point. And then after that, if that person doesn't work, because it's about a person, if that person works for you, try and find someone else if you see that it's working. As long as you see that speaking to someone who has no bias because they know nothing about you, if that helps, then if that person is not, that doctor isn't the right one, find another one. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, for sure. You can share the number. He's amazing, and he's actually non-judgmental. And like I remember I'll be crying, and he's like, yeah, Sandra, cry. And I'll like cry. And then he's like, can we get back into session? I'm like, yep, good now. And then so it worked for me, and I think it can work for a lot of other people.
Well, I'm glad you were able to seek the help you needed, because sometimes we get too much in our head and feel like seeking help in any way to deal with our mental is like a failure or anything. But I want to say it's not a failure, because at the end of the day, you gotta do whatever you gotta do to make yourself better, because only you know it. So I'm proud of you, and I'm glad you did what you had to do.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna end this topic with one last thing. So if you had any advice for the people being treated as Oreos, or those treating others as Oreos, what would you advise them?
I think I would say that it happens, but don't define yourself by that, you know? Just take who you are and roll with it. No matter what anyone says or does, it's not about you, it's about them. And so that's what it is. So don't take it too hard. Try and move past it and just keep being you.
Amen. And I want to say to people out there, telling someone, oh, you sound white, or you speak good English, you're from Africa but you speak good English, or making jokes of their accents or stuff, that's not cool. Because as you see, some people end up getting anxiety, some people get depressed, some people kill themselves because of how you're viewing them. So unless you really know, like, get to know them, and if you're comfortable with them and then they're okay with you making fun of them, by all means. But that is part of bullying. To me, I'm glad I really have a very high shell. People make fun of my accent. I know growing up, like, I went to an Indian school, so for some reason I can't say my R's and L's properly. I can't even say my favorite color properly. So, and I've been made fun of a lot, because there's some words I can't pronounce the way they're supposed to be pronounced. And because I went to like our country, we speak British English, and then it's American English, and the words are different, and people, like, I'm glad that I really don't give a fuck what you say, because I'm still gonna keep on saying the shit I wanna say. And it is what it is. But there are people out there who are not as strong. So all these Oreos and labels, these labels are killing people. So instead of making fun of them, try educating them or learning from them. You never know.
Exactly. No, yeah, it's very true. You never know. Because just because someone speaks different from you doesn't mean the way they speak is wrong. You know? Because who makes the rule? Who's making this rule?
Amen. All right, then we're going to end this session. And that's all about Oreo. So people out there, if you have stories about you being called an Oreo, or you being stereotypical black, which is less far from an Oreo, we would like to hear all your stories. Send us DMs, or if you want to come to the show and share your stories, come through. And I want to give a big shout out to our cousin Alan for letting us use his Wi-Fi.
Thank you, Alan, for your Wi-Fi.
Now you better get that boy some Oreos.
We need to find Oreos immediately.
Hi, baby girl. Thank you.
Okay, love you.